Hey everybody, it's your pal Globonaut. I'm back in Kerbal Space Program once again. We've done a lot of complicated orbits and things in Principia, but I've not done like a manned interplanetary mission yet. So this is my first attempt at creating one. There's a few launches that build up this big interplanetary vehicle to Mars, and we're going to take some Kerbals there and land them and return them. This was a really long and difficult mission, so if you enjoy it, let me know. There was a few learning experiences for this vehicle, so we'll cover those as we go through. One of them being the non-retractable solar panels, and that's going to be important later. Now this massive rocket is launching the propulsion module. The first module we just launched was the core module. That's got electricity panels, it's got some living space, it's got some monopropellant, all sort of basic stuff we need. But this is the propulsion module, as I said, and this has a large set of tanks and the propulsion needed to take us to Mars. So we detach that, we fly the core module around and dock to it. Now I don't fly this module up fully fueled because it's simply too heavy, so I have to send up something else to fuel it up later. But it's partially fueled, so there's only one trip necessary, which is nice. And there we are. You can see there's also a inflatable heat shield attached to that. Space shuttle's going up. Now this is carrying a few little knickknacks and things. When I'm building these, I like to try and add on aesthetic things or lore-friendly things. So this is an extra habitation module and some communications devices. Now these literally just add weight, so I could ditch these and it wouldn't change, but when I do these kinds of things I like to think, oh, maybe the Kerbals will want some space to live while they're in space for 2.5 years, and I like to add little details and things on. So it adds an extra challenge for me, but I'm happy to do it, and it gives me an excuse to fly my space shuttle again. So we're just going to do the whole rendezvous process now, because I'm aware I skipped over it with the propulsion module. But I think it's much more fun to watch the space shuttle do it than a big blob of fuel tanks, so we're going to go over it in this. And in Principia, you just simply set it as your target and get your trajectory line on top of the spacecraft you're targeting. It's as simple as that. And there we go. We're rendezvousing now. I love using my shuttle to deliver things. I love the whole space trucking kind of vibe, and I like finding new ways to deploy things. I think most people just attach RCS to it, but I like to use the breaking ground robotics parts to make it a bit more interesting. As you can see, that's going to lift up, and that's how I'm going to attach it. So I just fly it down here, get lined up, and this is the habitation module that I'm attaching. Docking, I love it, it's fun, I'm good at it, and I find it very satisfying, so I do a lot of this. And the communications dishes I've got on one of the extendable arms, and then I'm just going to fly it in sideways and attach it that way. I just really love finding uses for my space shuttle that are a bit different to what most people use them for. I think it just creates a more complete feeling spacecraft and mission set when you're doing all sorts of different things like this. We're using traditional rockets, we're using obviously the space shuttle here, and I've also got another design coming up that I think you might be interested in. And there we are, it's attached. So we're going to send the shuttle home now. I'm going to get the transfer vehicle reoriented the way we want it. There we go. Off we go. We'll see that again very soon, not to worry. It was a really good re-entry, this one. I quite enjoyed it, and you may have noticed if you've watched my channel that I've installed volumetric clouds finally. They look great. I don't know why I didn't install it earlier. I love it. It looks genuinely fantastic. Went up here to go for a quick break, so that's why it's frozen. Honestly, the amount of footage I have for this is insane. There's about 8 hours of footage, so cutting this down and making it into a easy to follow narrative was quite the challenge, but I think I've managed quite well. Re-entry now. Same as usual, if you've seen my other videos, we're going to be doing some banking like the real shuttle to control our descent. And you'll get to see those volumetric clouds soon as well, which just look gorgeous, especially flying through them after being in space. It just feels like, oh, you know, I'm back on Earth kind of thing, and it's great. I don't know how he's managed to do this mod, because it is tremendous, really. I've seen there's like weather and rain and storms as well, but I think I'm on an older version because it was free, so I don't think I have access to those yet, but I look forward to it if they ever come out free. Had to fly a bit of a strange circuit here as well to avoid clouds, which adds another layer of challenge that I didn't really expect to deal with the mod, so that was actually quite cool. There we are. This is my other space shuttle. It's called Wayfarer, and it's very wobbly, as you can see. It likes to shake. This I consider my long-range heavy cargo shuttle. It's got way more fuel, so it can carry a lot more payload to orbit. It also has better glide capabilities, so more cross range, which can be handy for some more tricky re-entries like a polar orbit, for example. And we're just carrying up some fuel tanks in this to fuel up the transfer vehicle. I mentioned earlier I don't launch it fully fueled, just partially fueled. Just going to be business as usual for the rendezvous. Doesn't really change between shuttles. They have very similar flight characteristics in space, so I don't have to take any special considerations into account. The only thing with this one is it's got significantly less monopropellant, so I do have to be a bit more conservative with how I use it. I think I run out actually near the end of this flight, but thankfully this was during the re-entry process, so I could use my control surfaces instead. I do need to fix that. It's the one gripe I have about this at the moment is the monopropellant problems. But we're here now anyway, so it's not caused too much trouble. I'm just going to make another approach here. It is also a bit harder to turn. I think I need to increase the reaction control system power. That might help a bit. You can just see it there in the background, little silhouette. It's becoming quite the spacecraft, and it'll be even more of a spacecraft once we add the final component, which will be the last launch before we head to Mars. You can see I've bought plenty of fuel tanks, and thankfully it's only one launch, because the fuel management in this game is interesting when you have a lot to do. I'm sure there's ways people do it, but for me it's just a matter of opening all the menus and clicking the buttons and waiting. And you can see it takes a good chunk of time when you've got so many fuel tanks to fill up. But it does mean I get plenty of Delta V to complete my mission. There were a few fuel concerns throughout the mission, but we'll get to those because they are quite interesting and very close calls. So it makes for good entertainment. But I was quite happy with being able to complete the mission, to be honest, because there was points during this where I thought, oh, well, that's a mistake. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I haven't packed enough fuel. I haven't packed enough XYZ. But I made it work. That's what Kerbal Space Program is all about, right? Yeah, we are. We're done fueling. It's going to be another re-entry and landing, but you get to see this thing do it this time, which is cool. You'll see it's got much greater cross range. The only other problem, of course, is it doesn't have as much yaw stability as the Space Shuttle does because of the smaller vertical stabilizers on the end of the wings. So it's a bit iffy in that regard, but it's not unflyable. If you know its flight characteristics, you're fine. Very pretty sunrise re-entry here. We're doing a nice hard bang. You can see it just turns much quicker than the shuttle. in the corners, all the turns. It's got a sharper turn radius during re-entry. That's the terminology I'm looking for right there. More lovely clouds, but it was a bit clearer this time, so I was able to do a nice visual approach the entire way down. And because it glides a bit better, it's not so much of a hag to land as well, which is nice. You can go out a bit further, line yourself up a bit further down range and have a lovely little approach. And I was quite happy with this this approach actually. It was very stable, very controlled, very relaxing. And there we go. Smooth as butter, and it stops on a dime. Here's the last launch. You can see we've got our lovely Kerbals ready to go now. This is going to be the landing craft and the return pod in one. I know, right? Creative design here on the Global channel. Using that same rocket family that I've used to launch the other large pieces. Had to add a little kick stage at the end to this because it needed the help. So I have to just use a lot of fuel in this kick stage to get me the rest of the way into orbit. Surprisingly heavy, this thing. And there we go. Just a matter of rendezvous. Now, I mentioned fuel issues. The lander was definitely the problem. You'll see when we get to Mars that I struggle a bit when it comes to the launch off the planet again, but we make it work. But it was very marginal. Honestly, it's just one of those things that comes with practice. I know beginners find it very frustrating. This was probably the easiest docking because I used the old set both crafts to target each other on the nav ball trick. It's a classic and it works for a reason. Normally I'll go for the set one to prograde, set one to retrograde kind of thing, but you know, sometimes you're feeling lazy and you want to do the easy method. Now actually looking at that kick stage, I did have quite a bit of delta V left. There's about, is that 307, 308 meters per second? Now I could have used that actually, because you'll see when I get to Mars to deorbit the lander, because the engines are covered by the heat shield, I had to essentially deorbit the entire rig, detach the lander, and then reorbit the rig. But if I've got a little bit of fuel left over in that engine, I might as well use it, right? So it's all learnings for next time. If you excuse me if I sound a bit bunged up, by the way. I've had a horrible blocked nose the last couple of weeks and it's not really going away, so there is my personal complaint for the video out of the way. You can see I detach it there, but I probably should have kept it really. It would have been handy for the mission, but hey yo. These are things you learn when you build and fly these for the first time. But it's complete now. We're actually going to go to Mars, which is the whole point of this bloody video. It's always a learning experience building these kinds of vehicles, because there's always problems you forget to think about or things you don't anticipate. I think it was quite cool with the engines firing around the inflatable heat shield there. His burn was something like 7 minutes, so I just activated the maneuver planner to do it for me, and then I just walked off. I am not waiting 7 minutes setting up my computer for a burn. I think I'll come back in a minute to check on it or something, but it worked quite well. Lower thrust to weight ratios with the mech gem execution stuff tends to be the way to go, because it just handles it a bit easier. I mean, look, that was perfect. Couldn't ask for better. Just making a course correction now. I always do 1 or 2 with these interplanetary missions. I find it quite tricky to get the perfect trajectory first time round, but that's fine. And we want to dip into the atmosphere because we want to do some aero braking, which involves using the atmosphere to slow your spacecraft so you don't have to do a capture burn. And this is where we say goodbye to our large solar panels and 2 of our smaller solar panels, because your boy forgot to retract the smaller ones and as I mentioned, the large ones can't be retracted, and the heat shield was not large enough to protect everything, so those got you know, wrecked basically. But it's learnings for next time, right? Next time we'll make them retractable. We can keep them the whole mission, because I think they look quite cool. I always like things sticking off my spacecraft. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a vibe, man. It is a vibe. Making some slight tweaks using the reaction control system, and just time warping down. Here we are. I'm using trajectories to determine how much I want to aerobrake. And here we go. Heat shields are inflated. I think this always looks quite cool. It's such a neat aesthetic, having these big spacecraft fly through an atmosphere protected by a massive heat shield. It's a vibe. I've said vibe 3 or 4 times now, and it's probably getting quite old, but that's fine. Here we are. Heat's building up. There it is, and those poor solar panels, off they go. Rest in peace. I'd lose 2 of those smaller ones as well, unfortunately. But I had 2 left, and that's all I needed in the end, so it worked out quite nicely. And that's such a cool shot, I think. It's just a silhouette with the plasma build-up around the spacecraft. Trajectories is usually quite good at determining your eventual orbit after an aerobrake, so it is very handy because you can avoid doing multiple passes, which is what I do here. Go up, let that heat shield go because I need those thrusters again. And here's Mars, the red planet. It's quite tricky to land on, actually. Obviously in default KSP you can just bring loads of parachutes. You can do this here too, but the atmosphere is substantially thinner, or it seems like it is anyway, than Duna. So yeah, it's just circularised the orbit, and you can see I've just dropped it down so I can have my lander perform its entry, and then I'm going to turn this around and just boost it up again. I've got plenty of delta V, so I could make these manoeuvres. Just getting it ready for landing. I'm just configuring the drogue chutes, configuring the heat shield so I have it ready to drop. There you go. And the engines are on, so I can use them straight away because it's quite a dynamic process, this landing. I used the drogues to slow me down. I actually set up a group there so I can activate them all at once. I basically use the drogues to slow me down, then activate my engine, then cut the drogues, and I finish the descent on the engine because they're just not enough to slow me down. And I don't want to strap hundreds of parachutes to this thing because it's just a waste of weight, really. So yeah, I just find this more fun and more realistic as well. Drogues deployed, there goes the heat shield, gears down, engines activated, cut the drogues, and it's rocket power all the way down now. And I was really satisfied with this landing. I thought it was excellent. Tooting my own horn there. I always like to set myself a challenge of a less than 1 meter per second landing speed. I think it's quite fun and satisfying to watch. But Jeb's out. He had to jump down. I forgot to put a ladder on this thing as well. I always forget things like that. But thankfully his legs were quite strong and he's able to jump back in. First Martian, and some well wishes for the journey home. I didn't at this point know if the lander had enough delta V to reach orbit. I can't find a KSRSS delta V map because everything is unavailable in my country on IMGA for some reason, and that's all the people post it on. So yeah. But it's takeoff time now. Here we go. Just prepping and off we go. Keep an eye on the fuel level on the left there. You'll notice how marginal it is. Now I'm not sure if my ascent could be improved, but regardless, I'm going to be putting more fuel tanks on this the next time I use it, because it was a bit of a squeaky bum time with this one. Pretty normal ascent profile, I would imagine. I always try and go sideways fairly early on because it's more efficient 9 times out of 10. But maybe I should have gotten further out the atmosphere sooner first. I don't really know. It's one of those tricky ones where I'm not entirely sure what the best ascent profile is. I'm having a few issues with the Principia's flight planner here. I wanted to check the delta V of the circularization, but I forgot to press a button, so it was all being very strange. But regardless, we make it. Here we go. I'm pretty sure it runs out by the time I reach the mothership. Just relying on the monopropellant now for the most part, since I have bugger all fuel left in the main engine. But thankfully, monopropellant's all you need for rendezvous a lot of the time. So monopropellant it is. I think I use the rest of the fuel here to slow my relative velocity. Yeah, I've got like 20 meters per second left. This is ridiculous. Very uncomfortable margins. But there it is in the distance, that speck, which is getting closer very quickly. There we go. Just getting it rotated. Ready for docking. Doing the old trick again, where you just have them face each other. It's a nice easy way to dock. And they are back. Boom. Now we're just going to move some fuel around. Don't need these big tanks and engines anymore. They're just extra weight. So we're going to ditch them. We're going to take the fuel out first. And we're going to use the lander as our new pusher, basically. It's going to push the stuff back to Kerbin, hopefully. Now, I like the idea of my Kerbals having space, as I mentioned. I like the idea of having these extra bits on the spacecraft as a bit of a sort of role-play lore kind of thing. But also part of the lore is weight saving. So eventually I do have to ditch the extra goodies that I brought along with me, unfortunately. So they will be cramped in a tiny capsule. But in my head I've justified it as they're getting rid of rubbish and, you know, getting rid of it into space because the capsule's getting cramped or something. I don't know. But regardless, I'm just sitting around mucking about with my fuel here. One of those things really that you sort of learn to deal with when you do these interplanetary missions. But there we go. There goes the propulsion stage. It served us very well indeed. And now we're going to use the lander to get the most delta V possible. It's going to be another 2 burn profile here. I'll do the main burn and then a correction. And I had enough for the main burn. Unfortunately, the correction, I was about 150 to 200 meters per second off, so I ended up having to ditch the luxuries I've brought along for the Kerbals, which is a shame, but hey, they want to get home, right? More crazy Principia orbits. This is inertial reference frames for you. This burn took a little while as well, so it was another I would have come back to it when it's done situation. Getting these encounters in Principia can be a bit of a ball ache. It's never very straightforward to do. You're sort of fiddling around with the settings until you find something you're okay with. And this was serviceable. There we go, another good burn from Rekchub there. So that was treating me well as well. You can see here I'm just swiveling the marker around, and eventually I'll find a correction I'm happy with, and now we're ditching the luxuries so we can perform our correction burn. Now just get sent off into deep space and maybe crash into something eventually. Here we are, just adjusting it on the old flight planner. We want to get a atmospheric entry so we can land back on Kerbin without using any more fuel. Do the burn. It was only about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It says 50.4, but it didn't feel that long, so maybe I wasn't paying attention. That does happen quite a lot. That's it. The final burn of these engines. That's all we need to get back. A 50-second burn, apparently. Do make some RCS adjustments as well, so that was a half lie. and it was so sensitive I had to disable 2 of my clusters and reduce the thrust load on the other ones. I just couldn't get the the entry that I wanted. It's very tricky. Here we go. Just mucking around, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now they have to wait to get back home, which took a little while. These time warps. Oh boy. Principia does not like max time warp. So you're just sitting here watching a PowerPoint presentation, effectively. But, you know, it's for the love of the game, right? You do this for the love of the game. Incoming, here we go. You can see the other bits of debris that I've left in deep space, just floating around, doing their own thing. And we're in the sphere of influence now, so our speed picks up very rapidly. And I had an issue here where I'd crash on re-entry a lot, so it took a few attempts, but what can you do? One more thing I want to change is this separation here. Just a bit too explodey for my taste, but that's fine. And here's the beautiful sunset re-entry that we got. And that's a mission to Mars. That's what it might look like if you do one in KSRSS. If you've got any other interesting mission profiles you'd like me to fly, please leave a comment. I'm always interested in hearing some different architectures and profiles and things. I think it's very interesting, and I'll definitely use this one again for something else. I'll put some improvements on and see where we can take it. But thanks for watching so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.